After a 1-week hiatus, Outlander is back with the mid-season finale. And yep, you did read it right. Outlander will not be returning until next year, which is when Season 7 Part 2 will air. Following on from Jamie being injured in the first Battle of Saratoga and it being revealed that Rob took Jeremiah through the stones at Craignadon, this was a mid-season finale where everything was at stake, and there was a lot to be revealed before it drew to a close. So with that, let's recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from this episode. Here is Outlander Season 7 Episode 8, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. This episode was very much focused around the story that was unfolding in the past, with the second Battle of Saratoga being on the cards, so let's start with that. The opening to this episode was really cool. We had Jamie's body lying there on the battlefield where we didn't know if he was dead or alive at that point, but as he was being robbed, Claire came in and threatened the people that were looting around him, as they were going to kill him so they could take his belongings. It was a moment where we got to see a side to Claire that we don't often get to see, and haven't really seen for a while, so it made a refreshing change, as she was saying that she'd harm them if they laid a finger on him. With Jamie surviving and Claire tending to his wounds, we saw that what he was saying to her was frightening her. The fact that he would essentially give his life for the men that were out there. As a rifleman, he's supposed to be fighting from distance and out of reach, but due to the type of person that he is, and the warrior mentality that he exhibits, he gets stuck in, so that others' lives don't have to be claimed. We heard that Jamie's actions, which led to him being severely injured, actually led to the Colonel's company being saved, which meant that 50 men survived. So it showed that Jamie's actions weren't done in vain, and they did have heroic effects. However, again, it only instilled more fear in Claire's mind. We cut to around 2 weeks after the first battle, and we saw that Jamie had recovered from his wounds, and he was ready to go back and fight again. This was where we saw the likes of Major General Benedict Arnold, an individual who in the history books changed sides from the Continental Army to the British, and is forever known as a traitor. His betrayal is something that had an adverse knock-on effect to the war, and resulted in it going in the Continental Army's favour, so his switch in sides was something that was paramount for the history to unfold as planned, so Claire and Jamie wanted to ensure that it did. During the second Battle of Saratoga, we saw that Jamie was faced with 2 of his blood on the battlefield on the opposition side. He had General Simon Fraser, who was his cousin, who he was instructed to kill, and also William, his son, who at that point he didn't even know was there. Whilst changing the direction of his shot so it didn't hit his cousin, he knocked off the hat of his son, Will, something which shocked him and made him realise that he almost claimed the life of somebody that he cared deeply about, but never truly met. However, his cousin General Fraser was severely wounded and ended up being forced to lie on his deathbed. With the British Army retreating and the Continental Army taking over the base, we saw that a truce was made and terms of surrender were met, which meant that the Continental Army had won. With General Fraser on the verge of death and Jamie being invited to see him before he died, it showed the brutality of war and the fact that your own blood could be on the other side, and how only a few moments earlier one was instructed to kill them. Yet now, Jamie was in a room surrounded by people that would have killed him only moments before. It's just crazy. As Jamie left and his cousin passed away, we saw that Jamie went over to Will and returned his hat just before William was made captain. Jamie had never properly spoken to Will, and he mentioned that he went over to him because he wanted to ensure that he finally spoke to him as a man, rather than aiming at him through a weapon again. With Jamie's cousin being dead, his final wish was to be buried back at Scotland, and this essentially meant that Jamie, Claire, and Ian would be able to get a fast-track route there on a ship that was courtesy of royalty. This meant that Jamie finally got to arrive back in Scotland right at the end of the episode. This is where I feel we're going to see the 2 stories potentially tie together. Obviously, Roger and Buck have gone back in time to 1778, and with the final Battle of Saratoga taking place in October of 1777, it could well be 1778 now, so that could mean that we're going to be seeing Roger crossing paths with Jamie as he looks to find Jeremiah. Within this episode, we also finally got to see Ian and Rachel kiss. It's been on the cards for a while now, and it finally happened, although there was a strong sense of awkwardness that was present between them both afterwards. It seemed as though it was frowned upon for her to be with him. Ian was also fearful of the fact that her being with him could result in her being killed or dying, but as Ian left, he gave Rachel Rolo to take care of. This is where we saw that Archie Bug was still present and on the hunt. with him swearing to seek revenge on Ian for what happened to his wife, and him originally saying that he wanted to take something precious away from Ian. It seemed like Rachel could be in grave danger moving forward, especially now that she's on her own, and Archie knows of her connection to Ian. That's definitely something for Season 7 Part 2. Roger and Bree. Roger and Bree probably only had about 2 minutes of screen time in the entirety of the episode. We saw Roger return and reveal that he believed that Rob took Jeremiah through the stones. Bree mentioned that it could be to find and retrieve the Jacobite gold due to the letter being taken and Jem knowing the location of it. This would bring the Jacobite gold back into importance in the story, as it was never really touched on again since it appeared at the start of the season. This is something that's in line with the novels, so it seems like that could be what happened. Without thinking for long, Roger decided that he was going to go through the stones in order to find the both of them and bring Jeremiah back, to which Bug also agreed to do. We didn't see him back in that time period, but the last thing that we saw was both Roger and Bug successfully going through the stones. This is going to be a spoiler for the novel, so skip to the time period on the screen to avoid the spoiler. But within the novel, it turns out that Rob was actually unsuccessful in going through the stones, and he actually had Jeremiah locked in the tunnel by the lock that Bree was kept in on her first day at work. And with Roger gone, it proves to be a dangerous time for her as Rob tries to take advantage of the situation. So I'll be intrigued to see if that actually happens in the show too. I'm hoping it will, because it will prove to be a big twist if it does. Overall review. I thought this was a great way for the mid-season finale to conclude. I was heavily invested in the story that was happening in the 1980s with Roger and Bree, so it's a shame that there wasn't much of a focus on that. However, it was nice to see the Battle of Saratoga reach its peak. It was never a question that Jamie was going to be alive following the actions of the previous episode, and I'm glad that he came out of it okay. With Jamie now on a different continent to Will, I do wonder how the revelation that we're all expecting to happen will ultimately unfold, because I feel like it has to. I'm not going to lie either, I'm pretty gutted that we have to wait until next year to get the next batch of episodes for the season. I feel like it should have almost been billed as another season if you genuinely have to wait until next year for it to be released. So that is pretty annoying, but I'm just hoping it's going to be worth the wait. The story is definitely gripping, and it seems like it's going to enter a new era as Jamie, Claire and Ian arrive in Scotland. So, there you have it, Outlander Season 7 Episode 8, Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos such as Endings Explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of the mid-season finale? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.